Hi, my name's Claudia. At my sister's engagement party, they made me sit at the staff table by the kitchen door. They served me the budget menu while everyone else had premium cocktails and imported appetizers. Then Brooklyn leaned in with her perfect smile and whispered, "You should feel grateful to even be here." But it wasn't just the cheap food. It was the years of being invisible, the design projects they stole, the credit they claimed, and the fake family love that disappeared the moment I stopped applying to their image. My stepmother dressed me in silence for decades, but what happens when the forgotten stepdaughter finally speaks her truth? I read the message twice, then a third time. "Can you design my engagement party graphics?" For free, obviously. "We're family." It came from Brooklyn, dropped into our family group chat like she was asking me to pick up coffee. I stared at it, thumb hovering over the reply button, but I didn't type a word. It wasn't just what she said. It was everything underneath that familiar current of entitlement, of being needed only when it served someone else's brand. I didn't respond. 2 days later, my phone rang. Marlena's name flashed across the screen. I should have let it go to voicemail, but I didn't. I pressed answer and said nothing. "Claudia," she began, sweet as poison, "I know you got Brooklyn's message. It's important to her, to all of us. You do understand what family means, don't you?" I stayed silent. "I mean, after everything Fletcher and I have done for you, this is the least you can do. We're not asking much. Just show up, be supportive, like a sister should." She hung up before I could respond, or maybe she never expected me to. Show up, be supportive. The irony burned my throat. I arrived at the restaurant early, alone of course. No date, no +1, just my black dress from Target and the invisible armor I'd learned to wear around them. The private dining room at Meridian looked like something from a lifestyle blog. White orchids, gold accents, floating candles on every surface. That's perfect. It didn't belong to people like me, even if we shared a roof once. At the hostess stand, the woman with the perfect smile checked her tablet. "Name?" "I'm Claudia Ward." She paused, finger hovering over the screen. "Oh. You're not on the main list." Her eyes searched again. "Wait, here you are. Table 12. She pointed toward the back corner, near the service station. It wasn't even a real table, just a small two-top wedged between the wall and a plant. No place card waiting. I gave her a tight smile, thanked her, and walked over. I could have asked questions and made a scene. But I didn't. That wasn't my place in this family. I sat down, smoothed my dress, and tried to steady my breathing. Across the room, waves of designer elegance moved like choreography. Silk dresses, craft cocktails, rehearsed laughter. Phone cameras flashed, people air-kissed. No one looked at me. A server passed with a tray of signature cocktails. He walked right past my table. It felt like watching a movie where someone edited you out of every scene. I thought back to Brooklyn's 21st birthday. I had worked 3 double shifts at the coffee shop to afford a custom illustration of her favorite quote. I spent weeks on it, hand-lettering every word. She glanced at it for 2 seconds before tossing it aside. Fletcher had surprised her with a designer handbag, and suddenly my gift became invisible. Why did I even come? Maybe out of habit, maybe out of guilt, or maybe somewhere buried deep, a pathetic hope that one day I'd actually matter. That day hadn't come, and tonight wasn't going to be it either. Brooklyn floated by in her champagne-colored dress, hair perfectly curled, makeup camera ready. She saw me. I know she did. But she looked right through me and kept moving. My phone buzzed. A client confirming they loved my latest logo design for their startup. My biggest contract yet. I locked the screen without celebrating. My name wasn't even on the seating chart display. Not that they forgot. They never intended to include me properly. But when the appetizers arrived, the message became crystal clear. Across the dining room, gleaming platters appeared like magic. Servers moved with precision, white gloves, synchronized steps, delivering art on plates. Truffle crostini, lobster mac and cheese, beef sliders that smelled like success and approval. One by one, the guests at nearby tables made delighted sounds. At my table, the only sound was the clink of cheap silverware on ceramic. A server approached without making eye contact. He placed a plate down, lukewarm and carelessly arranged. It held a sad salad and a single dinner roll, probably left over from lunch service. No dressing, no garnish, just humiliation served with a side of silence. I stared at it for a long time. The couple at table 11 glanced over, then quickly turned back to their conversation. Their laughter got louder. One of them whispered something I couldn't hear, but I felt it in my chest. They fed me scraps on purpose. Not by mistake, not through oversight. A choice. I'd spent years convincing myself that this family didn't mean to hurt me, that their coldness was thoughtlessness, not cruelty. But this was carefully orchestrated. They didn't want me to feel included. They wanted me to feel grateful just to be acknowledged. A shadow fell across my table. "Everything tastes good over here?" Brooklyn said, her voice dripping with fake concern. She wore her engagement ring like a weapon, her smile sharp as glass. I'd designed graphics for girls like her before, girls who knew exactly how to package emptiness as influence. "We kept it light for you," she continued, lowering her voice slightly. "Didn't want to overwhelm. I know you're more about simple things." My fingers tightened around my water glass. Brooklyn leaned closer, almost whispering. "Smile for my story, sis. Wouldn't want to mess up the vibe." Then she glided away, her heels tapping like a countdown. Her laughter melted into the ambient music, and I was left with wilted lettuce and a silence louder than screaming. I pushed the plate away. The air smelled like expensive perfume and success, but I had no appetite. Not for food, not for fake sisterhood, not for pretending anymore. My mind pulled me back to a memory I wished I could delete. Christmas 2019. I had spent weeks designing a custom photo album of our blended family memories. I drove through a snowstorm to deliver it on time. I handed it to Marlena with pride, expecting at least a smile. She barely glanced at the cover. "Digital would have been easier, Claudia. Trees, you know?" Then Brooklyn bounded in with an Instagram post tagging Marlena as "best mom ever." Marlena's face lit up like Christmas morning. Now that's what I call thoughtful. They devoured Brooklyn's social media love like candy. My album sat unopened on the side table. I remember sitting at the edge of that living room, watching them talk around me, past me. I smiled through it then, thought maybe I was being too sensitive. Now I knew the truth. Back in the dining room, someone started making a toast. I didn't listen to the words. My hand moved to my purse, fingers finding the phone tucked inside the pocket. The screenshots were there, waiting like loaded bullets. I wasn't going to destroy anything tonight. I hadn't come here to start a war. But maybe I hadn't come to stay silent either. They fed me scraps on purpose, but they had no idea I'd been collecting evidence that was far more substantial and far more explosive. The message on Brooklyn's phone glowed like poison through glass. I wouldn't have noticed if the server hadn't bumped the table. Brooklyn's phone, left carelessly beside her champagne glass. "Can't wait for later tonight. You're mine, engagement or not. Ethan." His name blazed at the top. I blinked hard. The world didn't shatter or spin. It just froze. I looked across the room, and there she was. Brooklyn, draped over Landon's arm like a magazine cover. She was giggling at something he'd whispered, perfect, flawless, rotten. My grip on my purse tightened until my knuckles went white. The phone screen dimmed, but the words were seared into my brain. She was cheating. No, she was cheating with Ethan, their wedding planner, and planning to continue tonight. The shamelessness, the casualness, the pure disgusting arrogance of it all. I watched her kiss Landon's cheek and pose for a selfie with his parents. And it hit me like ice water. I wasn't just invisible to them. I was their shield. The quiet stepsister they used to hide behind while they played their games. I stood slowly, needing air, needing space. I slipped past the bar into the side corridor near the restrooms, pressing my spine against the cold wall. But instead of calm, another memory stabbed through me. 2 years ago, in Chicago. It was supposed to be my breakthrough, a design contract with a major fashion brand. Portfolio reviews were scheduled, contracts were being drafted, and then nothing. They suddenly stopped all contact. The creative director sent a brief email. "We've decided to go in a different direction. Best wishes." I spiraled, doubted myself, blamed myself. Months later, a former colleague pulled me aside at a networking event. "Look, Claudia," she said carefully, "someone called them. Someone said you were unreliable, hard to work with, not worth the risk." She didn't need to name names. Fletcher never understood my work. He didn't even pretend to care. But actively destroying my chances? I hadn't thought he'd sink that low. And maybe that's what hurt most. I hadn't seen it coming. I trusted him despite every warning sign screaming otherwise. I returned to the dining room, moving like I was sleepwalking. At table 12, my corner of exile, I sat down and stared at nothing. The chatter around me became white noise. Another speech, another performance of happiness. I checked my phone. An email from a startup wanting to hire me for their complete rebrand. My biggest opportunity yet. The kind of news you share with family. The kind of moment they celebrate when it's someone else's win. I locked the screen without responding. I scanned the room. Not one person here would care. Not one face would light up for me. Marlena would call it luck. Fletcher would grunt, "That's nice." Brooklyn would probably steal the credit somehow. I opened my purse and touched my phone. The screenshots were there, waiting like ammunition. I could feel something shifting inside me. Not rage, not even hurt, but clarity. Sharp and clean. Marlena once hissed at me, "You owe us everything. We gave you a home." And Brooklyn, during our last real conversation, had laughed and said, "Let's be honest, Claudia. You're just the backup. You make the rest of us look better." They thought I was background noise in their perfect family photo. She wore designer dresses. I had the truth. And tonight, my truth was going to be louder than their lies. Marlena cornered me by the restroom entrance. Her lipstick was flawless, her threats even sharper. She'd timed it perfectly, right before the toasts, when nobody was watching. A sweet smile plastered on her face, manicured hand gripping my arm, voice coated in fake honey. "Claudia, sweetheart, let's not cause any drama tonight," she whispered. I stayed silent. She leaned closer, breath heavy with expensive wine and calculated menace. "If you say or post anything tonight, your little design career is finished. I ended one opportunity before. I'll destroy 10 more. Are we clear?" I didn't flinch, but my heart hammered against my ribs. She stepped back, smile still perfectly painted on. "You're here as family, not a troublemaker. Stay in your lane." Then she pivoted, heels clicking against the tile like a judge's gavel. "Case dismissed." I stood there, back pressed against the cool wall, trying to control my breathing. Marlena didn't yell or scream. She cut deep, and I was hemorrhaging inside. But this pattern wasn't new. 4 years ago, I'd finally gotten a chance at a solo gallery show in Soho. A real shot. My name on the invitation, my designs on the walls, my vision finally seen. Then Marlena called. "Change of plans," she said. "Brooklyn's doing a family photo shoot that weekend. You know how important her brand is. I've already committed, Marlena. The gallery's counting on me." "Oh please," she snapped. "We're your family, Claudia. This matters more than some hobby show." I cancelled the exhibition. She never thanked me. Brooklyn didn't even show up for the photo shoot. The gallery gave my slot to someone else. I didn't get another gallery opportunity for 2 years. That was when I finally understood that in this family, love had conditions and sacrifice was expected, never appreciated. Back at table 12, I sat down again. The restaurant lights dimmed as the host approached the microphone. The crowd quieted. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots folder. They were all there, saved like evidence, like truth too dangerous to delete. Marlena's words echoed in my head. You owe us everything. I gripped my phone tighter. No, I whispered. You owe me. I looked around the room. Brooklyn was glowing, sipping her signature cocktail, her engagement ring catching every light. Fletcher laughed too loud at some business joke. Marlena smiled graciously at distant relatives like nothing was cracking beneath the surface. A server approached my table. Miss, is everything all right? It will be, I said. He moved on. I didn't watch him leave. My eyes fixed on Brooklyn's table. Tonight, I won't disappear. I won't apologize. I will finally be seen. But first, let me show you what she's been hiding behind that perfect smile. It was last month. I was organizing my design files when a message popped up from a former client. A boutique owner I'd worked with in 2020. Hey, wasn't this your logo design? Brooklyn's using it in her press kit. No credit anywhere. She attached a screenshot. There it was. My logo, my color palette, my typography choices that took me weeks to perfect. And there was Brooklyn's face, beaming next to it like she created it herself. My work, her empire. No attribution, no acknowledgement, no shame. I stared at that image until my vision blurred. Then I closed my laptop and walked away. I didn't confront her. I didn't call her out. I just started collecting evidence. 1 year ago, I did try to address it, back when I still believed honesty could fix things. Brooklyn, you're using my designs without permission, I said, showing her the portfolio she'd stolen from. She didn't even blink. It's just graphics, Claudia. Chill. People follow me, not some random designs. Random designs. Those words followed me everywhere. Into this engagement party, into every family gathering. I wasn't their sister. I was free labor, a ghostwriter for their perfect life story. And yet, I was the one who created the visuals, who built their brand, who made them look good even when they refused to see me at all. Tonight, I sat quietly at table 12, my phone heavy in my hands. Soft jazz played in the background, perfect soundtrack for their fairy tale evening. I stood up. My hands were rock steady now. I opened the family group chat on my phone. The one where Brooklyn had casually demanded free work. The one where Marlena played perfect stepmother for the audience. I started typing. My fingers moved without hesitation. One by one, I uploaded the screenshots. Brooklyn's stolen designs. Ethan's explicit messages. Marlena's threatening voicemails. Fletcher's sabotage calls. I hit send. Then I stood up, walked to Brooklyn's table, and set my phone down right next to her champagne glass. Check your family chat, I said simply. I walked slowly back to my table, sat down, and watched their perfect world implode in real time. This isn't revenge. It's truth. And truth doesn't whisper. Phones buzzed across the dining room like angry wasps. Brooklyn's face went white as paper. Gasps echoed through the restaurant as guests checked their screens. The family group chat exploded with evidence. Screenshots of Brooklyn with Landon at her engagement announcement, both beaming for the cameras. But then the next image appeared. Brooklyn's private messages to Ethan, clear as daylight. Can't wait for later tonight. You're mine, engagement or not. Time-stamped, dated, undeniable. Brooklyn's mouth fell open. Landon sat frozen, then slowly turned to stare at her. I didn't need to be close to feel the heat of his betrayal. He wasn't her fiancé. He was her cover story. More screenshots followed, each one a surgical cut. Brooklyn's stolen designs, side by side with my originals. Marlena's voice message, keep Claudia in line or her little design hobby ends permanently. Fletcher's recorded phone call, cold and businesslike. She's talented but unstable. Not someone we'd trust with a major brand. Her work's too emotional, not commercial enough. His voice was unmistakable. No room for doubt. Just sabotage wrapped in professional language. Another image showed Brooklyn at an influencer event, wine glass in hand. The audio clip played automatically. She's so dramatic. I mean, design's cute and all, but we're the ones with real careers, real influence, right? Laughter, then crushing silence. The final screenshot showed the seating chart. Table 12. One chair. No name card. I stood slowly, letting the room absorb what I'd finally released. Landon rose without a word, his face stone. He turned to Brooklyn and said, barely audible, "Did you ever actually love me?" She reached for his hand, mascara running down her cheeks. Landon, wait. But he stepped back. One step, then another, and he was gone. Landon's mother stood next, her designer handbag clutched like armor. This family has no integrity. You nearly destroyed my son's reputation. We want nothing to do with this circus. Her husband nodded once before they followed Landon toward the exit. Clean departures. Surgical, devastating. Guests whispered, some in pity, some in vindication. Several grabbed their coats and quietly headed for the doors. Nobody was celebrating anymore. Brooklyn collapsed into her chair. Her champagne-colored dress, once perfect for social media, now looked wilted and wrong. Her makeup streaked in dark lines across her face. She didn't speak. She just sat there, broken. My phone buzzed. A text meant for Brooklyn from her biggest sponsor. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we're terminating your contract effective immediately. Another notification appeared. We need to pause all collaborations. This isn't the brand image we support. Then her manager's voice cut through the silence, loud and harsh on speakerphone. Brooklyn, you're toxic now. Every brand is pulling out. You need to disappear from social media immediately. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even smile. This wasn't victory. It was gravity. That's what happens when truth finally falls. I slipped into the side corridor, needing space. Instead, I found Marlena. She blocked my path, clutching her wine glass, mascara smudged with fury. Rage mixed with pure humiliation. You destroyed us, she hissed. You destroyed your sister. Is this what you wanted? To obliterate your family? No. I said calmly. I just wanted to be treated like I belonged here. Her eyes flashed with venom. You always make everything about yourself. Fletcher's voice cut through from behind her. Enough. He stepped forward, his voice quiet but unbreakable. This family shattered years ago, Marlena. Claudia just stopped pretending it was whole. She stared at him like she'd never seen him before. Neither had I. And somehow, in that moment, he looked more real than he ever had. Marlena said nothing else. She turned, slammed her glass down on a nearby table, and stormed out. Guests were leaving openly now. A few nodded at me as they passed, some respectfully, others awkwardly. The ones who stayed kept their voices low. The ones who left would spread this story in whispers. I returned to table 12. My phone was still there, evidence folder now empty. All its secrets shared, nothing left to hide. I picked it up and closed my fingers around it. My chest felt lighter. Not triumphant, not even satisfied. Just free. I looked around the nearly empty room. Brooklyn, crumpled in her chair like a deflated balloon. Marlena was gone. Fletcher stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the empire he'd helped build crumble into dust. I didn't win tonight. I just stopped losing. The next morning, Marlena called me. Not to apologize, to negotiate. Her voice was hoarse, strained, trying to sound composed. I think we all said things we didn't mean, she offered. I didn't respond. Can we meet? Just talk, please, Claudia? I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. I recognized that tone. Not regret, panic. She didn't want to make amends. She wanted damage control. I've already said what I needed to, I told her. Publicly. There was a pause, then softer. Fletcher and I have been reflecting. We want to move forward as a family. Your version of family isn't something I want anymore. Later that week, I found a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten, Fletcher's careful script. It didn't say, "I'm sorry." It said, "We hope someday you'll understand what we were trying to protect." That was the last time I heard from either of them. And honestly, that was perfect. I didn't need reconciliation. I needed freedom. And I had claimed it. But not everything that ends stays buried. It was a cold Thursday in April when Brooklyn appeared at my studio door. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, oversized hoodie damp from rain. "I'm not here to make excuses," she said. "Good," I replied. I need work." I stood in the doorway for a long moment. She looked diminished, smaller than I remembered. Her designer confidence was gone. Her voice had lost its sharp edge. "You know," I said, "you could have texted first. I didn't think you'd answer." She wasn't wrong. I stepped aside and let her in. The studio smelled like fresh paint and possibility. My business partner Zara was editing designs in the back office. Brooklyn stood uncertainly in the main workspace, surrounded by logos and graphics for clients who respected my talent. "I don't need you to forgive me," she said. "I just need to learn how to actually work." I studied her face carefully. Not for the old beauty, but for genuine intention. "You'll arrive early," I said. "You'll handle filing, cleaning, coffee runs. You'll be invisible until you prove you've changed." She nodded quickly. "And you'll earn your way up from the bottom this time." That evening, I stood on my studio's fire escape. The city sprawled below me, lights twinkling like scattered dreams. Zara joined me, steaming mug in her hands. "So," she asked, "what's the next big project?" I thought for a moment, watching traffic flow through the streets. "Portraits of people who rebuilt themselves," I said. "Not from destruction, but from truth. And yet, truth doesn't erase all scars." I stood alone later, looking at an old photo I'd kept hidden for years. Me and Brooklyn at a family barbecue. I was maybe 12, she was 8. She stood center stage in a pink sundress, all smiles and confidence. I was half cropped out of the frame, smiling like I hoped someone would notice me. I traced the worn edges with my finger. They never really saw me then, but I see myself clearly now. Inside the studio, Zara was adjusting wall displays. I could hear the gentle thud of frames being repositioned. "Hey, Claudia," she called, "this one's slightly crooked, but it feels more honest that way." I smiled. "Perfect. Leave it exactly like that." Friends began arriving for the launch party of my new design collection, Authentic Voices. Some were clients, some were collaborators. All were people who valued real connection. Maya brought homemade cookies and sparkling cider. Someone started soft jazz on the speakers. In the center of the room, someone raised their glass. "To the family we choose," they said. Everyone echoed the toast. Glasses clinked like small bells. I stood in the middle of my own story this time. Not because I demanded space, but because they made room for me. From the corner of my eye, I spotted Brooklyn. She was quietly organizing supplies in the back corner, invisible to the celebration. She didn't look up for attention. She didn't expect recognition. And she didn't disappear. Later, after everyone had gone home and quiet settled over the studio, I checked my phone. One new voicemail. "Claudia, it's Marlena. I know you don't owe us anything, but I hope someday you'll forgive us. Not for our sake, for yours." I didn't delete it, but I didn't call back either. Some wounds aren't meant to be healed, just understood and released. I walked to my private office in the back. The walls smelled like fresh possibility and independence. My ergonomic chair welcomed me as I sat down. Across from me, perfectly centered on the wall, hung a new piece. Black and white self-portrait, my face confident, direct, uncompromising. Underneath, in my own handwriting, truth, designed by my own vision. No more begging to be included. No more waiting for invitations. I built my own table. Maybe you've been invisible in someone else's story too. Waiting for permission to matter, waiting to be seen. Here's what I learned: you don't need their approval to exist. You don't need to bleed for people who call it family. You can build your own table. I did. Not from revenge, but from truth and self-love.